What's up, ladies? If we haven't met yet, my name is Whitney, and I'm super excited that I get to be here and share with you guys today a little bit about my journey in motherhood. So if you don't know me, I have 4 kiddos. They're 4.5 years apart in age. So my oldest was 4.5 years old when my youngest was born, which led to a lot of weird conversations when they were kids, right? I'd be in the store and people would say, "Are they all yours?" Yep, they sure are. Do you run a daycare? Nope, I sure don't. I had a politician come to my house one time, knock on the door, and be like, "That's too many kids." And I was like, "I'm not voting for you." That's the wrong thing to say when you're canvassing for people to vote for you, right? Like, smart words here. But I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about that because I recently was at the dentist's office, and my dentist told me, "Your kids are awesome. They're super well behaved. They look at me in the eye when I talk to them. That's not normal." And it got me thinking, okay, 3 months ago even, we were in the Boston airport. I was with all my kids by myself, and a guy looked at me and goes, "You have 4 kids, and I don't mean that in a good way. Like, that's too many." And so it made me think about this juxtaposition, right, of like, what's the good and what's the bad? I've had all of these comments of like, "That's too many kids. You must be overwhelmed." And now I'm on the other side, right, of, "Hey, you're doing a really good job." And it made me start thinking about, what did I do to get here? So I wanted to give you mamas a couple practical tips, 3 things for you and 3 things for your kiddos that you can do if you're wanting to get from this space of, gosh, I'm really overwhelmed, to this space of, man, it's starting to work out really well. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about is Jesus time. And I know this feels like whatever. I've heard this all the time. Everybody tells me about Jesus time. But it is so important because when my kids were little, this was a problem. I would go to my room and I'd get stuck in this scroll hole and I would sit there and I was resting, right? I need to rest. I need some time. But then I'd come out of 15, 20, 30 minutes and I didn't feel good. I didn't feel rested. It was fake rest. So I started saying, okay, if that's fake rest, how do I get real rest? And I came across from one of my friends something called the Pause app. It's by John Eldredge. Let me tell you guys, it has changed my life because instead of getting fake rest, my soul is finding rest in God alone, right? I can come out of those spaces where mommy just needs 20 minutes and mom comes out refreshed and not just scrambled from the fake rest, from this scrolling that I'd been doing. I also now use it for a good thing. I put check-in times on my phone. So there's 2 times a day for me specifically that are really difficult with my kiddos. And it's right after lunch and right before dad gets home. And so I have reminders on my phone at 1 p.m. comes up every day. Check in with Jesus. Hey, Jesus, how are you doing? How am I doing with you? How's this working? Am I in my space where I need to go take 20 minutes and go take a pause, or am I okay? And then at 5 p.m., I have one that pops up every day that says fresh mercy because I run out. And so I need the reminder at 5 p.m. every day, I need to know I need fresh mercy. I need to be intentional. This is my second with my kids. I need to know that I need to be regulated. Have recently learned that I get dysregulated really quickly. And so these regulation techniques that I've taught my kids, I need to know them for myself. And if I can regulate myself, I can actually be the thermostat in my house rather than a thermometer. And when I'm up here, my kids are up here. When I'm down here, my kids are down here. And if we're all doing this, then it's not a good day. But if I can stop and I can pause, I can regulate with Jesus and they can regulate with me. I can create margin in my life. I'm really good at saying yes to things, and I'm really bad at saying no to things. And that led to a pace of life that wasn't sustainable for a really long time. So now I've learned I need to say no because anything that I'm saying yes to, I'm actually saying no to my kids and something else. And so intentionally creating yeses and nos in my life has been huge for having kids that feel connected to me because we're not just running all the time. I also, this is kind of combined with the next one, work on my awkward. So full vulnerability here. One of my awkward things is that I'm a yeller. I love to be right and I'm really loud. And so when my kids were little and I was always in this fake rest mode, I yelled all the time. And I didn't like it. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like that my kids didn't like who I was. And I came across this article that talked about having 5 headbands on one of your wrists. And whenever you say something bad, whenever you yell, you have to switch one hair tie to the other wrist. And my goal was to get to the end of the day without having any of my hair ties on the wrong wrist. If I do move one, I can say 5 nice things to my kiddos or 5 intentional things to move it back. But every day, all of my hair ties were on the other wrist. And so I had to be really intentional about not yelling at my kids and about what I was saying to them in order to move these hair ties back and forth. And eventually, just the weight of the hair ties on my wrist was enough to make me stop and check myself and think about the words that I was saying to my kiddos so that I could speak life into them instead of speaking outbursts and all of this anger that I had in my heart towards them. That leads me into my third thing, accountability. The reason I found this is because I'm accountable to my husband. And he lets me know, hey, you're yelling a lot in the kindest way possible, right? He loves me so much. But talking with him about like, okay, I found that I'm yelling all the time. I don't want to yell all the time. This is what I'm working on to help me not be a yeller. Can you keep me accountable? So I have my husbands, I have a couple girlfriends, and I have a couple mentors that I'm constantly talking with about like, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what's not going right in my life. This is what isn't jiving in my life right now. I really need you to help me with that. Or when I'm super dysregulated, hey, this isn't going well, right? We can use this for good things. I need help. I need you to pray for me right now. And they'll send me prayers right away. Hey, I'm praying for you. You got this. And it has changed everything, you guys. I can feel their prayers in my house. I can feel the mood shifting. And if you have those 3 things in your life, when you're noticing that you're off, you have Jesus time, you're intentional with what you want to work on, and you have accountability in your own life, it'll change you in a way that'll make you a better mom for your kids. So now I'm going to shift a little bit on how I've worked with my kids in order to help them grow into better humans, right? Because we're all kind of tiny terrorists when we're little, and I'm kind of trying to teach them out of that. So one of the things that I do with my kiddos is I date my kids. Once a month, I take each of my kids out, just me and them, and we have a date. These don't have to be expensive, like $2 at Caribou, right? And I ask them, hey, what's something that I'm doing as a mom that I need to stop doing as a mom? What's something that I'm doing as a mom that makes you feel the most loved? And with this, they start to think about things that our family is doing, and I get to hear answers like, oh, I really feel loved when you say really nice things to me. This kid's love language is words. I need to really work on words. It makes sense why this kid gets so upset when other kids call them names. Okay, I need to start reframing the way that their siblings talk to them because it's going to matter more to them than it is to other kids. Oh, this kid's favorite thing is when we play board games together, quality time. Okay, so if I can incorporate quality time into this kid's life, it's going to make a real big difference, whereas it's not in this other kid's life. How can I make sure that our family has enough quality time so that I'm filling that kid's love tank? Another one of my kids, I love when you snuggle with me on the couch. Oh, this kid's love language is physical touch. I need to make sure that I'm incorporating intentional touches into their day so that they're feeling connected with me. And not a single one of my kids has the same love language as ladies. So what I'm telling you is this is when you get to know your kids. This is when they get to know you. And this actually makes a huge difference in our day-to-day lives. Call out the good. Okay, I have my fancy jar here. You might have noticed it. This is our family gem jar. We thought the family jewels would be kind of weird, so we went with family gems. And every time I see my kids doing something full of character, full of integrity, I say, hey, go put a gem in the jar. I'm calling out the good in their lives. And they actually start doing things like, Mom, did you notice that I held out the door for that old lady? Can I get a gem? I'm like, yep, absolutely, because I want my kids to be full of character. I want them to be chasing character. I want them to be chasing integrity. When they tell me, hey, Mom, I lied about something, I'm really sorry. As long as it's little, like we still do consequences for big things, but little things, thank you so much for telling me. You can put a gem in the jar. That's showing integrity. I want my kids to be chasing those things. We actually have this out on our counter instead of flowers or anything like that, because I want my family's character to be on display more than I want my house to be cute, right? The other one that we have in there are clear gems, because our family's a team. One of our things is Team Dauer. Right? And so when one of my kids does something for Team Dauer that's not normal, that's above and beyond, they get to put a clear gem in the jar because we work as a team. And then when we fill it up all the way, we actually have what we call Yes Day. And we let my kids, we give them a budget We let them choose everything that we do for the whole day. And they love it. They sit there and they talk about, okay, we have this much budget. So if we eat here, then we can't go here. But if we go here, then we can't eat here. And they literally plan the whole day within this budget of free things and fun things that they want to do as a family. And it's some of Andy and my favorite memories of our kids, of getting to celebrate their character and their integrity and how we've poured into them and how they've poured back into our family too. Another thing that we do is I'm very specific with these. So one of my daughters came up to me one time and she said, Mom, I just feel like you always say, that's awesome, or that's cool when I give you stuff. And I was like, well, it's because it is awesome. It is cool. And I made the comment to my mentor, yeah, I didn't understand kind of what my kid was getting at. And she goes, oh, she's noticing that you say that to all of your kids. She wants something really specific. So now I go, oh, I really like the way that you colored that. It's really pretty. Or I really like the way you draw your eye to this. Or I really like and I give specific compliments because she needs to know she's not the same as all of my other kids and I see her individually, which if you have multiple kids is super important. They need to know that they are important to you. And I tell them all the time, I love you individually because I don't have favorites, but I don't love them all the same, right? They're all super different kids. So they need to know that they're loved individually. And the last thing that we do, which is super, super important for them, and actually for me too, is to always have a growth mindset. As I was preparing for this talk, I came across this quote. It says, "It is better to try something and fail than to try nothing and succeed. The result may be the same, but you won't be. We always grow more through defeats than victories." That's from Kierkegaard. So something that I tell my kids is mistakes are for learning. You don't learn anything if you don't make a mistake. Little mistakes all the time. What did you learn? Awesome. I'm so glad you made that mistake now. Because when you're a grown-up, you won't have to make that mistake again. And you'll remember it because it was a mistake, right? We don't remember the things that went well as much as we remember the places that we failed. So for myself too, shoot, I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. I learned a way that didn't work. Let's find a way that does. And we incorporate that into all of the things in our homeschooling, in our just in life. I made a mistake, didn't make a mistake. I learned a way that didn't work. Let's find a way that does. And that's a culture in our home now. We actually get excited. We'll be like, yay, you made a mistake. Let's find a way that works. My son will say, think like a scientist. Let's have an experiment. And it really helps my kids to shift their mindset from I'm a failure to I'm finding ways that work. And all of these things together, I really feel have helped bring me from this place of I'm not doing great as a mom to, man, I really have the best kids in the world. And I tell them that too. I have the best kids in the world because they will rise to how you compliment them, right? So ladies, let's be intentional. Let's be accountable. Let's spend time with Jesus. Let's date our kids. Let's have a growth mindset. And let's call out the good in our kids because really they are so good.